already enough.
Okay. So tell me.
Well, I was working for Jack. And I had a little shop. What they did then, I don't know if they do it on garment, they call it pleating and tucking. And he was like getting garments from manufacturer, and he would do this pleating and tucking work on the garment, and then return it to the manufacturer, and of course get paid for I don't remember how the financial system. Well, a combination of things happened. Well, first, I don't know which came first. I think, yeah, he took it. He was, because he had to go get work from manufacturers, and he had to do. He decided that take a partner, who's coincidentally the partner's name was also Jack. And here I was, pretty much sometimes almost running the place. Sometimes he would go out and leave me in sort of quote unquote in charge, and I would see that the workers kept working, getting all this stuff done. And I sometimes would take care of the payroll and bookkeeping records of, make out a bill for the work I had done. I was doing a little bit of everything, sort of. And now the partner comes in, and he wants to be controlled just as much as Jack was, because after all, he owns half the business. And I resented it, stupidly, because hey, you're taking away my power, so I was getting very unhappy working there. Also, and also, I think I met your mother around the same time. And during your mother, I remember your mother saying to me, "Have you got a future there? Is there something you really?" And in retrospect, I realized, no, I really don't. So she encouraged me to go and get an aptitude test. I don't remember exactly where, but I think it was part of the Jewish, what is that? What's the Jewish organization?
Jewish Philanthropies?
The Jewish Philanthropies, is possible. And I remember going wherever it was, and they gave me a test. And the guy who gave me the test says, you're very good in math. And he says, you always think along the lines of doing something in math. So I started looking around for a job, and I wound up M. Lowenstein and Sons. And did I tell you about my first job? I think I must have told you.
Yeah, the alphabetizing.
Yeah. They said the bills used to come off on some sort of machine, numerically, but they had different people taking different parts of the alphabet, so I had to set it up alphabetically. So I had to take all these bills and put them in alphabetical order. Well, once the person who entered the different bills in alphabetically gave them back to me, well, now they want to file those bills away. And of course, they had to file them in numerical order. So the first part of the day I was doing alphabetical, and the second part of the day I was doing chronological. I was starting to go crazy. Well, towards later on, they decided to let me do some actual, and I was going to school at night. Even when you were born, I was still going to school. And they said, okay, they started letting me do some little bookkeeping work. So I wanted, being I was now up, I wanted a raise. This is also a good story. Well, I went to the guy my supervisor, I said, I think I ought to get a raise. I think he was making $43 or something, $45. I said, I want a $5 raise. He says, well, I'll put it in for you. I don't know if I can. Well, they used to pay me every 2 weeks. Well, 2 weeks go by, I get my check, nothing there. I go back to him and I said, I didn't get anything. He says, oh, he says, it's going to be retroactive. You'll get it in the next pay. 2 weeks go by, I get the next check, nothing. Oh, he says, just an error. You get it all next check. Two more weeks go by, I get my next check. I get a $3 raise, nothing retroactive. I go back to him, I say, all I go is, I thought we were going to get a $5 raise, and you only gave me I got a $3 and nothing all the way. Well, look, you have a terrific future here. There's a lot of chances for you to work yourself up. Look, just accept what it is, and it'll be to your advantage. I said, no, and I quit. And I went to work for Republic Pictures, and I worked for Republic Pictures for about a year. And also, I remember the guy who was the supervisor. He said to me, Republic is at that time they were on the threshold of going out of business. He says, yeah, he says, they're really actually still in business, but they don't make movies anymore. They process and they do something else. I think the corporation or part of the corporation is still in existence. So then I started looking around for another job, and I went to Susie Perrette. Well, at that time they called Lombardi. The original name was Lombardi Dress. And I remember they went up to and interviewed me. Now I got from $35 or whatever it was. I was getting already $40. I was looking now for $45 a week. And I remember sitting down with the office manager at the time, or not the assistant office manager. I remember it was a woman, Ida, and I said, she said, well, you know, there's also you have a lot of opportunity here, and there's a lot of overtime possible. And she was trying to chew me down. I said, and I figured, well, I'm almost ready to say yes. I said, all right. She says, we'll try you out. Well, unbeknownst to me, actually they had somebody that they wanted to let go, but they figured they'd hire me and see which one. If I work out, they'll let the other person go. But it was a big staff of people. I didn't even realize it, and sure enough, I think it was a woman. She disappeared, and then there was one Francis. Francis says, "You remember Mary Jones?" I said, "Yeah." They fired her, kind of you. And I said, "They didn't fire me, kind of me. They were going to fire her in any case." Right. But just I happened to be the one that took her place. But she was a miserable person. Francis. I had a lot of different stories about with Susie Perrette there. I had this one Doris. Doris was to sit right to my left. Doris was always, she became my sort of my office mother. She always, how you're right, you're okay. And I remember one time, I forgot for what reasons, she kissed me on the cheek. And I got lipstick, and then I wiped it off, and says, she wrote me a note. Says, so I should take home to your mother to say that it was an innocent kiss on the cheek, and it didn't mean anything. First of all, she was not a woman. She was older than me, and she was puff. Doris was a quote-unquote redhead. And about every 3 or 4 weeks, as time went on, the red started to fade, and all of a sudden she'd come in on a Monday and she's bright red again. Yeah. And I can tell you, when the office manager, remember Mr. Zucker, Sam Zucker, when Zucker retired, the assistant office manager took over. And in turn, they made me the assistant office manager. And Doris thought she would get the, and being she didn't get the job, she got angry at me, not at anybody else. So she no longer talked to me. Well, I was only assistant office manager for a short time, because then the son of the owner of the made his own business, and I went to work for him. And Richard Blauner. Yeah. His name was really, his real name was, first name was Sanford, his middle name was Richard. He didn't like, he used to sign S. Richard. That's how he used to sign his checks. Even, this also happened when I went to, by the time I left Richard, I was up to $150 a week. Well, first of all, while I was working for them, I was doing a lot of overtime. I used to come in at like 8:30 in the morning and stay till about 6 o'clock, and I used to take a half hour for lunch. So of course, and I was punching a clock at that time. Then when I became assistant office manager, then I didn't have to punch a clock anymore. But up until that time, so I was putting in quite a bit of overtime. And I was making over $100, $120, When I became office manager, they put me first. I eventually got up to $150. When I became my own office manager, we're in the same building, but only a different floor. And did I ever tell you a couple of stories with going back to Susie Perret, a very, very phony company. Did I ever tell you about they had several different floors, and I used to have to go see the piece good buyer, because my work was mostly with a piece good buyer. I'm telling you, to get hoarse already from working so much.
We can make it part list.
I'll finish the story, and that'll be it. I was on my way to they had this floor where it was just a storage room. A lot of dresses that they couldn't sell for one reason or another was there. And as I was walking to up to the area where the piece goods buyer was, they had these overhead sprinklers, and I noticed one sprinkler was leaking and water was hitting, but it was hitting the floor. There was nothing underneath it. Right. And I went back. I remember talking to the shipping manager. I said, you know, upstairs there's a sprinkler leaking, but I say it's not hitting anything, but I figured I'd let you know. All right, don't worry about it. Well, a couple hours later, I had to go back to see the piece goods buyer. Suddenly, there was a whole bunch of dresses underneath it. Then they used to have people come in on Saturdays to buy wholesale. Everything was strictly cash. And what happened to that cash?